Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you into a moment that has the power to change the direction of your life, not through effort, not through struggle, but through a simple yet radical shift in how you see yourself in relation to reality. Most people move through life believing they must wait for circumstances to improve before they feel confident, secure, or fulfilled. They believe something must happen out there before something changes in here. But what if that order has always been backward? What if the universe has been waiting on you, waiting for you to occupy the inner position that allows everything you desire to flow naturally into your experience? From childhood, we are conditioned to ask, to chase, to prove, and to struggle. We are taught that life is a negotiation, that blessings must be earned, and that fulfillment comes after sacrifice. Yet observe closely, the most powerful moments in your life did not arrive through force. They arrived when you expected them, when you quietly assumed they were possible, when you no longer questioned whether you were worthy. This is not coincidence. It is a principle, one that governs every outcome you experience. Acting as if the universe is about to give you everything is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the recognition that reality responds to the posture of your consciousness. When you expect lack, you prepare for disappointment. When you expect fulfillment, you prepare for arrival. The universe does not respond to what you want, it responds to what you assume is normal for you. And today is about learning how to shift that assumption deliberately and powerfully. Many people misunderstand this idea. They think acting as if means pretending, forcing positive thinking, or denying present circumstances. But true inner alignment is not pretending, it is deciding. It is the calm inner knowing that what you desire is already arranged, already unfolding, already moving toward you through channels you do not need to control. When this decision is made internally, anxiety begins to dissolve. Fear loses its grip. Patience becomes effortless because you are no longer waiting, you are expecting. Think about how differently you would walk, speak, and choose if you truly believed that everything you need is on its way. You would not beg for approval. You would not rush from fear. You would not settle for less than what resonates with your highest vision. You would move with quiet confidence, not because you have proof, but because your inner state no longer requires it. This is the power of acting from fulfillment rather than lack. Today's message is an invitation to step into that fulfilled state now, not tomorrow, not when the evidence appears. Now, because the moment you shift internally, the universe has no option but to rearrange externally. What you are about to hear is not motivation, it is activation. It is a reminder that you were never meant to chase life. Life was meant to respond to you. So as we begin, I ask you to listen not just with your ears, but with your awareness. Let go of what you think you know. Suspend doubt. And allow yourself, just for this moment, to act as if the universe is about to give you everything, because when you do, everything begins to move. The state you occupy internally is the silent command that shapes everything you experience externally. Life does not respond to your wishes, your words, or even your actions as much as it responds to the assumed identity you consistently live from. Every desire you hold already exists as a state of consciousness. And the moment you step into that state mentally, you activate its expression in form. This is not a metaphor, it is the mechanism behind all manifestation. You are not trying to make something happen. You are allowing what already exists to become visible by occupying the version of yourself for whom it is natural. Most people remain trapped because they identify with the role of the seeker. They wake up as someone who is trying, hoping, or waiting. That identity becomes the state they live from, and life faithfully reflects it back as delay effort and unfinished outcomes. The universe does not interpret desire as a command, it interprets identity as a command. When you define yourself as the one who is still on the way, reality has no choice but to keep you on the way. But the moment you redefine yourself as the one who has arrived internally, everything begins to reorganize around that decision. To act as if the universe is about to give you everything means you no longer ask, when will it happen? You ask, who am I now that it is done? This single shift dissolves resistance because it removes the sense of distance between you and your desire. Distance is psychological, not physical. The moment you feel separated from what you want, you create time, effort, and obstacles. When you feel united with it internally, time collapses and circumstances begin moving with surprising speed and ease. A state is not an emotion that comes and goes, it is a position of consciousness. You can feel tired, uncertain, or even afraid and still remain in the state of fulfillment if your inner assumption remains intact. Many people wait to feel confident before they assume success, but confidence is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. The assumption comes first. When you decide internally that something is yours, emotional alignment follows naturally. The state creates the feeling, not the other way around. Notice how differently you behave when you know something is certain. There is no desperation. There is no urgency. There is no constant checking for signs. You move with ease because certainty quiets the mind. This is why acting as if is so powerful. It removes the frantic energy that blocks manifestation. The universe responds to calm expectancy, not anxious effort. When you occupy the state of having, you stop interfering with the process through doubt and overthinking. Your outer world is a mirror, but it reflects with a delay. Many people abandon the state too soon because they look for immediate evidence. The moment they do not see instant confirmation, they slip back into the state of lack. This is not failure, it is simply a misunderstanding of how reflection works. A mirror cannot change until the position of the object changes first. If you remain steady internally, the reflection must adjust. The only requirement is consistency in the state you occupy. Acting as if does not mean ignoring your current circumstances. It means not allowing them to define you. Circumstances are effects, not causes. They are the echo of previous assumptions. When you understand this, you stop reacting emotionally to appearances. You no longer interpret delay as denial or challenge as punishment. You see everything as transitional, evidence that the old state is dissolving to make room for the new one. When you live from the fulfilled state, your decisions subtly change. You choose differently, speak differently, and respond differently, not because you are trying to behave in a certain way, but because your identity has shifted. Actions taken from fulfillment are effortless and precise. They feel intuitive rather than forced. This is why the right opportunities, people, and ideas begin to appear without struggle. They are drawn to the state you are broadcasting, not to the words you are saying. One of the greatest misconceptions is believing you must prepare yourself to receive. Preparation implies future readiness, which keeps fulfillment in the future. The moment you decide that you are already ready, life responds accordingly. Readiness is a state, not a process. You do not become worthy through time or effort. You recognize worthiness through assumption. Once accepted internally, the external world adjusts to confirm it. The state you occupy also determines what you notice. When you live from lack, you see obstacles everywhere. When you live from fulfillment, you notice pathways, solutions, and openings that were always there but previously invisible. Reality did not change, your perception did. And perception governs experience. What you consistently acknowledge becomes what expands in your life. There is a quiet authority that comes from living in the state of expectation rather than anticipation. Anticipation still implies absence. Expectation implies inevitability. When you expect something, you are not emotionally attached to how or when. It is simply understood that it will arrive. This inner knowing removes pressure and replaces it with trust. Trust is not blind faith, it is confidence in the law that governs reality. Your role is not to force outcomes, but to remain faithful to the state you have chosen. The universe organizes details. You occupy the position. When doubts arise, they do not mean you are failing, they mean the old identity is losing ground. You do not fight doubts, you return to the assumption. Each return strengthens the new state until it becomes dominant and natural. Every fulfilled desire begins as a decision to no longer identify with absence. The moment you stop calling yourself the one who lacks, the universe stops treating you that way. This is why acting as if the universe is about to give you everything is not wishful thinking. It is alignment with how creation actually works. You are not trying to attract something into your life. You are allowing your life to catch up with who you have already decided to be. When the state becomes stable, manifestation becomes inevitable. Not because you earned it, but because you embodied it. An embodiment is the only language reality understands. Assumption is the unseen force directing every outcome in your life. Long before action takes shape in the physical world, an assumption has already been accepted internally. People often credit effort, timing, or luck for their results. Yet beneath all of these lies a far more powerful cause, what you quietly take for granted as true. Action does not create reality. Action simply expresses the assumption already operating within you. When you change the assumption, behavior, opportunities, and outcomes rearrange automatically. Most individuals exhaust themselves trying to act their way into a new life. They push, plan, hustle, and force, believing that relentless movement will eventually produce change. But action taken from the assumption of lack only produces more lack. It carries tension, urgency, and doubt within it. That inner resistance slows everything down. Assumption, on the other hand, requires no effort. It is a decision of identity. The moment you accept something as already true, your entire system aligns with that acceptance, mentally, emotionally, and behaviorally. To act as if the universe is about to give you everything is not to do more, it is to assume more. It is to rest internally in the certainty that life is already moving in your favor. From this position, action becomes effortless and inspired rather than forced. You do not chase opportunities, you recognize them. You do not overthink decisions, clarity arises naturally. This is because assumption directs perception, and perception dictates experience. Observe how easily you act in areas of your life where you feel secure. You do not rehearse doubt or question yourself. You simply move. That ease comes from assumption. You assume things will work out, so your actions flow without resistance. In contrast, where you feel uncertain, every action feels heavy. The difference is not ability, it is belief accepted as fact. When assumption changes, the quality of action changes with it. Many people misunderstand assumption as passive thinking. In truth, assumption is the most active inner force there is. It sets the direction before any physical step is taken. The body and mind follow it naturally. This is why trying to force positive action without changing the underlying assumption feels exhausting. You are attempting to override your own internal program. When assumption shifts, effort disappears. The universe does not respond to how hard you try, it responds to how deeply you believe. And belief here is not emotional excitement, it is inner certainty. Quiet, calm, unshaken certainty. When you assume something is yours, you stop checking for proof. Proof becomes irrelevant. The assumption itself is enough to set events in motion. This is why the most powerful manifestations often occur when you are least attached to the outcome. Assumption also determines your reactions. Two people can face the same situation and experience completely different results based on what they assume. One sees a setback and assumes failure, the other assumes redirection. The external event is identical, but the internal interpretation differs. Over time, those interpretations harden into lived realities. The universe simply continues the story you are telling yourself silently. When you assume the universe is working for you, even obstacles lose their power. They are no longer seen as resistance, but as rearrangement. This assumption removes fear from action. You no longer hesitate, because you trust the process unfolding through you. And when fear dissolves, action becomes aligned rather than reactive. You stop forcing doors and begin walking through open ones. It is important to understand that assumption operates whether you are aware of it or not. Every "I always struggle," "nothing works out for me," or "this is too good to be true," is an assumption being impressed upon reality. The universe does not judge these statements, it reflects them. Becoming conscious of assumption is the moment you reclaim creative authority over your life. To change an assumption, you do not argue with it or fight it. You replace it by living from a new inner agreement. You ask yourself, what would I naturally assume if this were already done? Then you gently return to that perspective whenever the mind drifts. Repetition stabilizes assumption, and stability turns it into fact. Action taken from assumption feels different. It feels light, confident, and timely. You know when to act and when to wait because you are no longer driven by anxiety. Anxiety belongs to the assumption of lack. Peace belongs to the assumption of fulfillment. When peace becomes your baseline, the universe begins matching it with harmonious outcomes. This is why some people seem to do less and receive more. They are not lucky, they are aligned. Their assumptions are congruent with the outcomes they experience. They expect support, success, and flow, and life mirrors that expectation. Expectation is a creative force. It is the blueprint from which reality builds. When you assume something is inevitable, you remove resistance. Resistance is what delays manifestation, not time. Time collapses naturally when resistance dissolves. This is why sudden breakthroughs often occur after someone finally lets go. They did not stop wanting, they stopped doubting. Letting go is not giving up, it is releasing the assumption that it is difficult or far away. Assumption also governs self-image. If you assume you are chosen, capable, supported, and favored by life, you will unconsciously move in ways that confirm it. People respond differently to you. Opportunities approach you. Circumstances align. None of this requires force. It requires agreement, inner agreement with a higher version of yourself. To act as if the universe is about to give you everything is to stand in that agreement consistently, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, calmly, firmly. It is the silent knowing that precedes visible change. Once that knowing becomes your natural state, action becomes secondary and results become inevitable. Reality always follows assumption because assumption is the cause. Action is merely the echo. Inner acceptance is the invisible gateway through which all experiences must pass before they can appear in your outer world. Nothing enters your life until it has first been allowed within your consciousness. Desire alone does not create change. Desire only points to a possibility. Acceptance is what gives that possibility permission to become real. When you truly accept something internally, resistance dissolves, and the universe responds with precision and speed. Most people unknowingly block their own manifestations, not because they lack faith, but because they have not normalized what they want. They want abundance, love, success, or freedom. Yet deep inside, they still treat these things as extraordinary, distant, or reserved for others. This inner hesitation sends a mixed signal. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you feel comfortable receiving. If something feels unnatural or undeserved internally, it cannot stay long in your experience. Acting as if the universe is about to give you everything requires a shift from wanting to welcoming. Wanting keeps the door closed, welcoming opens it. The moment you stop asking, will this really happen for me? And start assuming, of course this belongs to me. You move from permission seeking to permission giving. That inner approval is what triggers outer approval. Inner acceptance means releasing the need to justify your desires. Many people feel they must earn the right to receive, as though life were a reward system rather than a reflection system. This belief creates delay. When you accept internally that you are already worthy of what you desire, the struggle to prove yourself disappears. Worthiness is not something you achieve, it is something you acknowledge. Once acknowledged, life rearranges itself to confirm it. The reason repetition works is not because it convinces the universe, but because it convinces you. When you repeatedly return to the idea that what you desire is normal and inevitable, your nervous system relaxes. The body no longer reacts with fear or doubt. This calm state signals readiness. The universe mirrors readiness far more than excitement or urgency. Many people confuse acceptance with passivity. In truth, acceptance is active alignment. It is the decision to stop resisting the version of life you claim to want. Resistance often hides behind logic, timing concerns, or fear of disappointment. But these are simply habits of the old identity trying to maintain control. When you accept internally, you release control and allow a higher order to operate. Inner acceptance also dissolves self-sabotage. When something finally begins to manifest, many people unconsciously push it away because it feels unfamiliar. They question it, test it, or doubt it until it collapses. This happens because the inner self has not yet accepted the new reality as safe or normal. When acceptance precedes manifestation, this pattern disappears. What arrives stays, because it feels right. You can measure your level of acceptance by your reactions. Do you feel surprised when good things happen, or do they feel expected? Surprise reveals that something was not fully accepted internally. Expectation reveals alignment. The goal is not to be amazed by blessings, but to recognize them as confirmations of what you already knew. Inner acceptance also reshapes your relationship with time. When you accept something as yours internally, you stop counting days, weeks, or signs. Time loses importance because the outcome feels certain. Certainty relaxes the mind, and a relaxed mind allows things to unfold faster. Impatience is not about time, it is about uncertainty. Acceptance removes uncertainty. When you no longer seek permission from circumstances, people, or past experiences, you step into inner authority. Inner authority is the moment you realize that no external condition has the power to decide what is possible for you. Your acceptance is the deciding factor. This realization is deeply liberating because it shifts power back to where it belongs, within. Acceptance also changes how others treat you. People respond to the way you see yourself. When you accept yourself as someone who receives easily, others mirror that expectation. Doors open without effort. Help appears without asking. This is not manipulation, it is resonance. The universe is aligning with your inner agreement. Letting yourself receive without guilt is one of the most transformative shifts you can make. Guilt is a subtle form of resistance. It says, "This is too much," or "I don't deserve this." When guilt dissolves, flow begins. You allow good things to enter and remain in your life. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable and start expanding naturally. Inner acceptance does not require constant focus or intense visualization. It requires consistency and identity. You return again and again to the knowing that this is who you are now. Each return strengthens the state. Over time, acceptance becomes effortless. It feels natural. And when something feels natural, the universe has no reason to withhold it. Every time you choose acceptance over doubt, you deepen alignment. Doubt does not disappear instantly, but it loses authority. You stop obeying it. You stop letting it define your expectations. Acceptance becomes your default response to desire. Yes, this is allowed. That simple yes is one of the most powerful forces in creation. Acting as if the universe is about to give you everything is ultimately an act of self-trust. It is trusting that your desires are valid, your timing is perfect, and your inner world is worthy of shaping your outer world. Once acceptance is complete internally, manifestation is no longer a question of if, but when, and even the when begins to dissolve. The universe cannot give you what you refuse to accept, but it cannot withhold what you have fully welcomed. Waiting is one of the most misunderstood inner positions a person can occupy. On the surface, it seems patient, hopeful, even faithful. But beneath it lies a silent declaration: "It is not mine yet." Waiting reinforces separation. It affirms distance. And whatever consciousness accepts as distant must remain so. Power does not operate in waiting, it operates in being. The moment you stop waiting for life to change and begin living from the assumption that it already has, everything begins to move. Embodiment is the opposite of waiting. Waiting says, "One day I will feel secure." Embodiment says, "I am secure now." Waiting says, "When this happens, I'll relax." Embodiment says, "I relax because it is inevitable." Reality responds instantly to embodiment because embodiment is certainty made visible within you. The universe does not reward anticipation, it responds to presence. Most people delay their own fulfillment because they believe they must see evidence before they can embody the state they desire. But evidence follows embodiment, not the other way around. If proof were required first, no transformation would ever occur. Creation begins internally, and embodiment is the act of occupying the end result now, without negotiation. When you wait, your nervous system remains alert, scanning for signs, confirmations, and validation. This constant monitoring keeps you anchored in lack. But when you embody fulfillment, your body relaxes, your breath deepens, your decisions slow and sharpen. This relaxed authority sends a powerful signal to reality: this state is stable. Stability is what allows manifestation to crystallize. Embodiment does not require you to deny your current circumstances. It requires you to stop letting them dictate who you are. Circumstances are echoes of past states. If you allow echoes to define your identity, you remain trapped in repetition. But when you embody a new state despite old appearances, you interrupt the cycle. Reality must then adjust to match the new signal you are broadcasting. Notice how differently you move when you are no longer waiting. You do not rush conversations. You do not chase approval. You do not over-explain yourself. These behaviors fall away naturally because they belong to the state of seeking, not the state of having. Embodiment simplifies your life. It removes unnecessary motion. You begin doing less yet achieving more. Waiting keeps the mind busy. Embodiment quiets it. The quiet mind is not empty, it is focused. It knows without questioning. From this space, intuition becomes clear. You act at the right time, not because you planned it, but because alignment made the timing obvious. This is why embodied individuals seem effortlessly successful. They are not guessing, they are responding. Time collapses when waiting ends. Waiting stretches time because it emphasizes absence. Embodiment compresses time because it emphasizes completion. When you live as though the outcome is already secured, the universe rushes to confirm it, not out of urgency, but out of coherence. Reality seeks alignment, and embodiment provides it. Many people fear embodiment because they believe it will lead to disappointment if things do not work out. But embodiment does not depend on outcome, it depends on identity. You are not embodying a result, you are embodying the version of yourself for whom that result is natural. Even if circumstances shift, your identity remains intact. This is true power, remaining grounded regardless of appearances. Embodiment also frees you from comparison. When you are waiting, you look sideways, measuring your progress against others. When you are embodied, comparison becomes irrelevant. You are no longer in competition, you are in alignment. Your path feels personal, precise, and guided. You trust it because you trust yourself. The act of embodiment is subtle. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It shows up in how you sit with silence, how you respond to delays, how you treat yourself when no one is watching. These small moments reveal your true state. And the universe responds to those moments far more than to affirmations or declarations. When you embody fulfillment, gratitude becomes natural. Not forced, you are not grateful to get something, you are grateful because your inner world already feels complete. This gratitude is powerful because it is not transactional, it is expressive. It says, I recognize what is already mine, and recognition is a form of ownership. Waiting keeps you focused on the future. Embodiment anchors you in the now. The present moment is where creation happens. The future is just a projection of your current state. When you shift the state now, the future rearranges automatically. This is why embodiment is the fastest path to transformation. It works at the source. You do not need to know how everything will unfold to embody the end. Knowing how keeps you in control mode. Embodiment requires trust. Trust is not blind belief. It is confidence in the law that what is assumed consistently must express itself. When you trust this law, you stop micromanaging life. Every time you catch yourself waiting, you have an opportunity to return to embodiment. Ask yourself, how would I think, feel, and move if this were already settled? Then gently adopt that posture. No force, no pressure, just alignment. Each return strengthens the new state until it becomes your default. Waiting postpones power. Embodiment activates it. The universe does not meet you where you hope. It meets you where you stand internally. When you stand in fulfillment, life has no option but to rise and meet you there. Gratitude is not a reaction to what has happened. It is recognition of what is already complete at the level of consciousness. Most people wait for evidence before they feel thankful, but that approach places gratitude at the end of the process rather than at the source. True gratitude does not celebrate arrival, it confirms fulfillment. When gratitude becomes a state rather than a response, it seals the assumption that what you desire is already yours. The universe responds to acknowledgement. Whatever you recognize as real within yourself gains permission to appear in form. Gratitude is the highest form of acknowledgement because it implies ownership. You do not thank for what you doubt. You thank for what you know belongs to you. This is why gratitude has such creative power. It bypasses questioning and moves directly into certainty. Many people practice gratitude mechanically, listing things they are thankful for while still feeling anxious, doubtful, or unfulfilled. This creates no shift because the inner state remains unchanged. Gratitude is not words, it is orientation. It is the quiet inner stance of appreciation that says, this is already handled. When gratitude comes from that place, it alters your entire frequency of expectation. Gratitude removes the need to chase. When you are grateful in advance, you are no longer seeking proof. Seeking implies lack. Gratitude implies completion. The moment you feel grateful before the manifestation, you have accepted the outcome internally. Acceptance is the final step in creation. After acceptance, reality has no option but to reflect what has been claimed. One of the most powerful aspects of gratitude is that it stabilizes the fulfilled state. Excitement rises and falls. Motivation fluctuates. Gratitude remains steady. It anchors you in certainty without emotional volatility. This steadiness is what allows manifestations to materialize without disruption. The universe moves smoothly when your inner world is calm and settled. Gratitude also dissolves fear. Fear exists only where there is uncertainty. Gratitude assumes safety. It says, all is well, even before conditions appear to support that belief. This assumption relaxes the body and quiets the mind. From this relaxed state, intuitive guidance becomes clearer, and inspired action emerges naturally. When gratitude becomes your baseline, your perception changes. You stop focusing on what is missing and begin noticing what is aligning. This shift in focus is not denial, it is selection. You are choosing which aspects of reality to energize with your attention. What you appreciate expands not because of superstition, but because attention is a form of nourishment. Gratitude also reshapes self-image. When you are genuinely grateful, you are implicitly acknowledging that you are someone who receives. This identity is crucial. Many people desire abundance but secretly identify as strugglers. Gratitude disrupts that identity. It installs a new one: the receiver, the supported, the favored. Life mirrors identity more faithfully than desire. The timing of gratitude is what makes it transformative. Gratitude after the fact is appreciation. Gratitude before the fact is creation. When you give thanks before seeing results, you are declaring the outcome inevitable. Inevitability removes resistance. Resistance is the only thing that ever delays manifestation. Gratitude does not require you to feel ecstatic or emotional. Quiet appreciation is enough. A simple inner acknowledgement, "Thank you, this is done," carries more power than dramatic affirmation. The universe responds to sincerity, not intensity. Calm gratitude signals trust, and trust accelerates alignment. Another misunderstood aspect of gratitude is that it does not mean settling. Gratitude does not ask you to accept less than your vision. It asks you to accept the completion of your vision internally. From that acceptance, higher expressions become possible. Gratitude expands desire rather than limiting it, because it removes the tension around fulfillment. Gratitude also ends the cycle of postponement. When you are grateful now, you stop placing happiness in the future. You bring it into the present. The present is the only place where power exists. By anchoring fulfillment now, you allow the future to reorganize effortlessly. When practiced consistently, gratitude becomes a filter through which you interpret events. Challenges no longer feel threatening, they feel transitional. Delays no longer feel discouraging, they feel strategic. This perspective keeps you emotionally aligned even when circumstances are still adjusting. Alignment ensures continuity of manifestation. Gratitude is the emotional equivalent of a signature. It finalizes the agreement between your inner world and outer reality. Once signed, the process moves forward automatically. You do not need to monitor it. You do not need to remind the universe. Gratitude implies confidence that the system is already at work. The most subtle yet powerful shift occurs when gratitude becomes effortless. You no longer practice it, you live from it. Life feels supported. You expect good outcomes. You assume cooperation. These assumptions generate experiences that confirm them, reinforcing the cycle. Acting as if the universe is about to give you everything reaches its highest expression through gratitude. Gratitude says, without words, "I know this is mine." And what is known at that level must appear, because consciousness does not differentiate between inner recognition and outer fact. Gratitude is not the end of the journey. It is the confirmation that the journey is already complete.